Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to day 136. Today I'm being joined by Eglė. So she should see this pop up shortly. I'm going to allow her to pronounce her surname for me. But Eglė is one of the other amazing people who are moving through 365-day lives together. She is a financial liberation and self-realization coach. And we're going to speak today about self-responsibility and what happens when that is truly embraced. So as we're trying to, there she is. Hello, Eglė.
Hi, Joan.
How are you? Good to see you.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you as well.
You're so welcome. I was just saying, I said your name, but I need you to pronounce your surname for me, please.
My name is Eglė Aleknavičiūtė.
Thank you. Thank you. I will try that offline so I get it right for next time. So it's so good to have you here. I was just sharing as well, Eglė, that we were moving through the 365-day live journey challenge together, and that we're going to have a conversation all about self-responsibility today and what can really happen when we embrace that in its true capacity. If you would like to share a little bit about the work that you do as well, and then we'll dive into this conversation together.
Yes, so my background is in business and finance. I'm also educated in business and finance, and I had a career in corporate. And then as I dove deeper and deeper into first unconscious bias, and then how do we actually change that, I started working with energy healing modalities. So now I combine the two, the inner world work of emotion and belief patterns with the financial or business aspect. So in fact, we can shift the realities or rewrite the beliefs that we have about ourselves and about the world for creating something new in our lives, something that we weren't told originally we may be able to create in our lives.
Yeah, I love that. I feel it's such an important aspect of business, of life, of who it is that we are, the work that you're doing for people. And I've been honored to have a session with you as well, which was very potent and amazing. So yeah, it was fantastic.
Yes, thank you for saying that. And I feel like we're on the similar path. So I feel that at least currently in my world, there are more and more women who are doing this. So really rewriting the pathways from the past. So thank you for being on this similar journey.
Thank you too. Thank you. And to bring it into the conversation that we're going to have today about self-responsibility, to choose to rewire your belief system, to choose to be the source of your own identity, requires you and us, all of us, to embrace self-responsibility. Whether we're moving through it on our own and then we're working with coaches or facilitators, it's our responsibility to rewire ourselves, to change that inner coding so that we can be the women that we know that we already are and express that out into the world and live the life that we want to live.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So we had mentioned we might speak about what is self-responsibility, what it isn't, and things that can come up along the way in relation to that. So if you'd like to maybe begin that side.
What I notice is that when we look at something from outside, it's never, or it's rarely how it really is from inside. So the same with self-responsibility. From my own experience, I grew up, also learned to be hyper independent. So I had a lot of responsibility, or I took up a lot of responsibility for myself. But now I know that there are different flavors of responsibility, and some of them feel heavier than others. So now I know that being responsible for something doesn't mean you have to do everything yourself, but it means that you have to see through that it happens. There are aspects of maybe wanting to control the circumstances. I think a lot of people recognize this within themselves, is when we feel responsible, we might feel obliged to see exactly how it happens. And there comes this element of control, which again is not part of responsibility necessarily. So emotions that can look like responsibility, but in my perspective, they are not, has to do also with maybe shame, guilt, or fear, emotions that makes ourselves to isolate from others and maybe even reject the help or possibilities that are available to us in the world. So doing everything on your own or controlling exactly how it happens might look like self-responsibility, but this is, I dare to say, old way of achieving things. There is another way of self-responsibility, which comes with much more lightness, but also with much more maturity, resourcefulness, trust, and similar qualities. What do you think when you hear this? What is your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that as well. And I think for women, especially in the times that we are in, we have been conditioned that to be responsible for self means you have to do everything. You have to be a woman that does all the work. You have to be a woman that's supposed to be at home. You have to be a woman that's supposed to be, you know, desirable but not too desirable. And it's just, there's so many levels and layers to it. And like you said, that piece of shame that can come up within us of, I'm struggling here and I can't do everything, but I'm told I'm supposed to be able to do everything. And it can really become like a weight that drags us down if we are if we have this old paradigm of self-responsibility. And I think there's a flip side to it as well, is that there are so many women who were raised and they had a lot of responsibility for one reason or another. And then there's also the flip side of those of us who were never really taught how to take responsibility, but yet we're expected to. And so that's been more my journey in a certain way, that there was an unconscious outsourcing of my responsibility to others. And it's only through my own journey of realizing of, actually, I get to be in charge here. I get to be the one that's responsible for who I am. So I think there's a duality and just a different dynamic sometimes with that. But what I've realized is that it does all then come down to similar emotions of fear, shame, isolation. So whatever side of it you're coming from, you'll still feel, not still, the potential of still feeling the same way is there. You're still going to put yourself down, feel like you're not good enough, doubt who you are, like we had said in our messages to each other, feel like an imposter. Who am I to do this? It's can be very detrimental to our confidence and to us as women, and I'm sure for men as well in their own way.
Yes, I agree completely. And despite which role we choose, those are often originally disempowered positions. So these are coping mechanisms that we had to take up growing up. And now, once we realize, like you say, that I am the one to take the responsibility, and also that when we realize that I can decide how, then beautiful things start to open up. There are completely new ways being modeled about, you spoke now about the collective conditioning and about the history. In the past, really being responsible meant really working hard. But now I feel like being responsible has to do a lot with the so-called soft skills, of being able to communicate well, to know where the expectations are, where the boundaries are, and how all these things flow together. So this interdependent way of also being with other people, while at the same time designing or creating the kind of life that we truly want to experience.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. And what I've really discovered on this journey or path of true self-responsibility is that it feels empowering. There's a solidity in it. There's a groundedness to it that isn't in, or at least through my experience, isn't in the old paradigm of self-responsibility. It's like, you know, you've got your own back, and if you can't figure it out right now, you know you will anyway, because you're not on your own. I think that's a beautiful way that all of us are beginning to move forward, not even beginning, that we're moving forward together in community. You know?
Yes, yes. And so it comes down to also being able to look within and to to some kind of vulnerability, really, to see what's happening within, and also to connect. And what I find so fascinating, that sometimes, even the most successful woman, there is research done, I believe Forbes wrote 75% were feeling imposter syndrome. So sometimes you look at someone and you think they've got it all. But what's fascinating is that once we look within, we realize that we are all human. And no matter which part in our journey we are, is it just the first step, or we've been doing this for years, we are still human. And so all these feelings and emotions, doubt is completely normal when we're starting something new. Shame is also a very human condition. So once we start to realize that we are not so alone and not so special, I want to say, in these lower or more dense emotions, that it also helps to open it up. It offers a validation, so that we don't stop once we fail for a first time. In fact, we learn to fail continuously, because that's the way to grow. So this is what I like so much about this journey, that we might seem on different parts with whoever you look, but at the same time, we're all human.
Yeah, I love that. And even before we came on, I think about 10 minutes before we went live, I could feel something bubbling inside of me. I was like, what is that? And I just realized, it was like, I feel like an imposter right now, you know? And it just came out of nowhere for no reason. But I just was able to give myself the space, hold myself in it, and go, you know, you're coming on to do a big conversation. It's okay. So I'm responsible for how I feel. I'm responsible for loving myself through a tricky emotion.
Yes.
And it's okay to feel it. Where we can trip up is if we get lost in it and we hide away, and, you know, we are afraid to speak about it, which we'll all have moments of that. But having that place within ourselves, it's like, it's okay. You know, this is emotion. It's gonna pass, you know. So it's such an interesting journey.
This validation, giving yourself a validation, but also what you're touching now, there is this fear of judgment. At least I've experienced that a lot. I had to spend a lot of hours in my own subconscious to clear immense fears of judgment.
Yeah.
Because on one hand, it's just human nature, because now, the brain's designed for the tribal communities of 10, 15, I don't know, very small groups. And now we're online for the whole world, in fact, to see and to judge.
Yeah.
So it is real. The process is real. The fears of judgment are real. But also, to say, there is this another thing that we're cultivating, is knowing that whatever happens, it's going to be okay at the end, or that whatever happens, we are going to move through it.
Yeah.
And so there is this step to take. And then there is also the history of actually being judged and actually being rejected, just like children. Every time the rejection is really, really painful. And so whenever we are in a situation where anything like that would be triggered, yeah, those emotions are, of course, there and they're real. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very much so. And, you know, that's something that I've been contemplating on recently as well, is that you're going to be okay. No matter what, you're going to be okay. And what I've been kind of thinking about or contemplating on is sometimes we just don't know that we're going to be okay. And when we're in community with others, when we can see others who have gone, maybe potentially have gone through something similar, we can ride the wave of their experience and know that they were okay and they're shoulder to shoulder beside us. And so we can just choose to allow their belief of you're going to be okay to be the thing that moves you through it. So if you're getting hit with big judgment, but you haven't been through that before, it might be really hard to believe that you're going to be okay. But when we're doing this in community, others will have had some sort of experience. We can just lean in and go, okay, I'm just going to trust that they were okay. I'll be okay because they're here with me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is profound. Again, if we talk about collective conditioning and history, the sisterhood wounds. So there is a lot of conditioning of also looking at others. What you're talking about now is already so profound. The ability to look to others with trust instead of looking at others with mistrust, with comparison, with competition, with judgment. And there is a lot of that, and I had to heal that in myself too. When you look at someone and when your brain says this is a threat or a danger, then it will not be able to ride that wave or take an invitation or have a conversation or to share the experience. But once all these old pains, wounds, emotions are cleared up, then you start to see another human being. And indeed, in fact, maybe even a role model or someone to share the journey with. And this is extremely powerful. This is profound.
Yeah, it really, really is profound. I just want to say for anyone who's watching now or watching later, if you have any questions or feedback or anything that this conversation is bringing up, then post it underneath here, or when Eglė posted on her channels then also, because I think this is such a big, powerful topic and conversation to have. And the more it's had out in the public, the more women know and men know that it's, you know, it's a co-creative process now. You know, we each take responsibility for ourselves internally in our own identity, in how I speak to it, in how we are moving ourselves through things. And it's also our responsibility to lean into others if we are struggling. And that can sometimes be the hardest one to do, because we might still have the conditioning, like you were saying earlier, of I need to do this on my own. If I share with somebody that I'm having moments of imposter syndrome or I'm having weeks of it, then they might judge me. They might, you know, whatever it might be. But it's our responsibility to, and this might potentially be harsh for some people, but it's our responsibility to shift the inner narrative so that we can actually be in community in that way, so that we can allow ourselves to walk with other people and have role models or be a role model or whatever it is. The more we speak the truth of what's going on, the freer and freer we become from the conditioning, I believe.
Definitely, completely understand. And some of other values or emotions that are useful to recognize in exactly this context also is one of discernment. So, you know, sometimes when you want to it could be that you or I or whatever, we might be jealous. So if we think we're helpless or disempowered, the feelings of jealousy can arise. And this is a sign normally that we desire something, but we think it's not available for us, and then feeling of jealousy comes. So jealousy is also then a signal to switch it up and look within. Where do I feel like I'm not capable yet, and where can I take self-responsibility to actually start creating it? But the other thing is also discernment, because what you mentioned now, there is this whole change taking place, but not everyone is there yet.
Yeah.
So speaking the truth is essential, but it's not in every environment. Definitely my experience too, that not everyone is capable or able or ready or willing to take the truth. And so especially in the vulnerable situations, it is good to look up and find places that are more supportive rather than critical. So if you turn on TV or you listen to the media, you see that there are still a lot of people who are looking to put others down, to feel better about themselves. But once you start recognizing this also as uncertainty from within, and when I say you, I talk to whoever is listening here, it's about starting to recognize also, that's what I mean about discernment, about whom do we want to be more of in contact with. So as our own frequency and emotions and feelings and the way we are starts changing, then also different environments start to appeal more through this resonance, really.
Yeah, I agree with that, and thank you for really clarifying that piece on speaking the truth, because I think we are in a time in humanity where speaking the truth can often mean vomiting your emotions onto others and expecting something to happen, and that's not, really what I mean at all when I speak about speaking the truth. To speak the truth, how I see it, is firstly to be in a place within yourself where you can admit how you are internally, how you're feeling, what has been activated within you, what limited conditioning might be, like what has arisen for you. And like you said, the discernment of where you share that or if you share that. And it does come back to beginning within that responsibility of who it is that you are and the responsibility of who you share it with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that frequency of truth, when it's used in the sacredness that it is designed to be used, I feel can move mountains very quickly.
Yes. And I know also from own experience that it not every environment is receptive for that. And for the longest time, I dimmed my own truth to fit in the environment, but only until at the moment where I started receiving this also as a message that this was not the right environment for me, when things started becoming easier as well. Because otherwise it's like, it becomes like a fight trying to prove yourself one way or another. But once you see that maybe there is really not a match, first of all, if there is not an ability yet or attempt to say the truth, you don't know. Because until nothing is said, you just don't know. And then you start saying it, and then you see that some change can happen, or through patience, really many things can change. But also you start to see things where really there is no match. And then what I feel also this part of self-responsibility is take a step and put yourself into new situations, or talk with new people, or sometimes it even happens in the most unexpected way, somehow opening up to something new, just new ways of being and new patterns. Yeah,
I really agree. And if we're bringing in then, what changes when you fully embrace it, you've kind of already spoken about it. But if somebody is maybe on the cusp, shall we say, of claiming their self-responsibility in the truest way, have you anything that you would say to them? How would you choose to direct them in that, so they take the leap into themselves again?
Yes. I first of all feel that there are like levels of self-responsibility. Is how much of our own power, creation power, we are ready to embrace. And every time we're expanding in that, to see that, okay, it's really what I have in life right now, in the way of being, in the way of environments, in everything really is my own creation. And once we start to alter it, it can be, first of all, there could be feelings of shame, guilt, or fear, because it's like awakening, it's realizing I have created this. And the first one is to validate that we only do what we know, what we've been told to do. And on the other hand, to realize that, yeah, that the future is not the consequence of the past, or that the future doesn't have to be the same as the past has been. So really start looking, not to stay in too long into shame, guilt, or fear, but to start looking more openly into what do I want to create in my life, and what could be the first step. Because even the very first steps are the most profound. Our brain tends to want to strategize everything and make a perfect plan before we make the first step, but life doesn't work this way. It's really through making first smallest steps is the way change starts to happen. So if you say that someone just takes first steps, I would say don't be harsh of yourself. Have self-compassion and self-love, and allow yourself to dream and to see where is it that you want to go, without overthinking or judging yourself whether it's possible for you or not. Simply start moving towards that direction. And you already mentioned, I truly believe that having someone mentor or help you see what you don't see, or validate your emotions, or support you through moving those emotions, can really make this journey easier, softer. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really great way to, and even if you're already doing it and moving to the next level of it, that in itself is a really great step to take, for speaking of steps. And you know, how I would also maybe add to that is there's something that was coming up in my life recently where it felt very uncomfortable and I didn't like it. You know, I was in resistance to it, asking myself, why is this happening? Why is this not changing? All of that stuff. And some to maybe suggest saying to yourself, well, this is happening for me.
Yeah.
This is happening for me. And to choose to believe that. And it can be challenging to do that. But when we do that, it can really shift the energy. It can really shift how you're perceiving what's going on. That, like you were saying, what has happened in the past does not need to project into the future, but what we are currently living, our current reality, we could look at it as it's an echo from the past, and we now are creating new moves and noises for new echoes in the future. And what would it be to spend some time with yourself to feel into what is self-responsibility for me from this new way of looking at it? How does it feel in my body? What do I think about myself when I choose that for myself? And I think that then, for me at least personally, is then we can begin to dream bigger. Then we can begin to take the steps for that.
This is very powerful. What you're saying is, if we're in the situation in life where we ask, why is this happening to me? Starting to look at it as a pattern is what's very powerful. And indeed, like you say, asking, what is this lesson for me? What do I have to change in my behavior, perspective, especially if you know, if we're in a situation, why is this happening to me? It's probably there is some history where we can see this has happened before, just in different ways. If we can start to recognize what is the pattern and what is the lesson hiding behind it, what is this lesson that's keeps asking, keeps appearing and keeps asking to be seen, to be learned. This is also the way to shift to that self-responsibility of what can I alter in my way of being, my way of thinking and feeling to reverse this for something new in the future.
Yeah, I really love that. And like you were saying, and we were saying earlier, this is a lifelong process. It's not about being asked to go from 0 to 100 in an instant. There's levels to it, there's pieces of it, there is calibration that needs to happen along the way, you know, experimentation even. So it's but it's a once you start embracing it, and it's just a beautiful journey, and it feels good. It feels good.
Yeah, it's all about the process, because once we are looking, once we're grasping for a specific outcome, we are in scarcity and in lack. And once we reach the point where we can shift into this process of creation, enjoying the process of creation, everything shifts.
Yeah, I agree. To honor the time, Eglė, I've really loved this conversation. I think we'll be back with a part 2 at some stage, whether here or on your side of things.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd love that. And again, for anyone who has watched or is watching, any feedback, anything that has been activated for you in this, any questions, any reflections, we would both love to hear that from you, and to share this out, because this is a big, powerful conversation for us all to be in, even though it's me and Eglė having it together.
Thank you for a great conversation, and I see you on my side next time.
Amazing. I love that. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I will see you tomorrow, and Eglė will see her people tomorrow. And thank you, Eglė. I loved it. I will see you later.
Bye.
Bye for now. Bye.